I read once, passingly, about a man named Shakespeare. I only read about him passingly, but I remember one thing he wrote that kind of moved me. He put it in the mouth of Hamlet, I think it was, who said, to be or not to be. He was in doubt about something. Whether it was nobler in the mind of man to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, moderation, or to take up arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing, end them. And I go for that. If you take up arms, you'll end it. But if you sit around and wait for the one who's in power to make up his mind that he should end it, you'll be waiting a long time. And in my opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. Thank you.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. That's Malcolm in 1964, December, in England. If you recall, that's Malcolm, that's 2 months before Malcolm was assassinated. And we have, as guests today, a person who actually remembers those days, huh?
Certainly do.
Malcolm? What were you doing during Malcolm's time? Welcome to the show, Richard Adams. Incarcerated for 45 years.
Well, what I remember about Malcolm, I imagine what everyone else remembered, he was the dynamic individual. He moved people, and he moved people whether you believed in what he was saying and other than that. But I thought Malcolm was a powerful individual, but I wasn't an individual that was a part of that movement. I was a local, thug, involved with doing hoodlum type stuff.
He didn't influence you at all?
No, he influenced my thinking, but he didn't influence my activity.
Okay.
Right. And he influenced, I imagine he influenced many people's thinking, but in terms of acting on that, it's a different thing altogether,
Well, this is 64, and he went through the changes of being a,
he's been through I imagine I went through the same changes.
He was a hustler and so forth and so on. He got locked up for robbery, burglary.
Yeah, but he was fortunate enough, man, to be guided much quicker than I imagine I was. I think it took me 45 years of imprisonment to gradually changed the way I think and what I thought before. It took a gradual period. I was in prison a long while, and when you're in prison, you have to adapt to a prison mentality in order to survive in prison, at least during them years. And so, after a while, if you're lucky enough, if God touches your heart, and to realize that life is very, very short, and what have you contribute to it, and you start thinking about things like that. And death is a constant thing on your mind. At least it was on mine anyway. So I did a lot of thinking, and had a lot of regrets, and had a lot of plans, man, that just went up in smoke, Because when you're in prison, the longer you're in prison, you lose contact, touch with people, loved ones, and other than that. Mm-hmm. And so that changes you. Mm-hmm. It changes you. And then after
you found God in prison.
My father.
You found God in prison.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I won't say that.
Well, you said God touched you.
Touched, yes, but I found God was always in me. Okay. I was raised in a Christian family.
Okay.
My grandmother raised me, and we had to go to church we went to church at least 3 times a week.
Oh my goodness!
Something
okay.
that as a child I detested going to church 3 times a week. You know.
Well, what turned you to a thug?
Pardon me?
What turned you into a thug?
My environment and the things that I just wanted to be like some of the guys that I saw.
Okay.
That influenced me, you know. And so as the years went by, it shaped me. And so it was easy for me to succumb to, you know, the things that was happening around me. I come from a very, very poor family.
Okay.
And
in Newark.
In Newark. And we never had any new clothes. And so all the clothes, my grandmother used to do housework, you know, scrub floors and things of that sort. And so she got clothes from people that she worked for, and we warm, you know. And so
well, a lot of black people were poor and never turned to a thug.
Yes, I mean you have many people, man. People in my family was very poor that didn't turn to thugs. Okay. Right? And it's why would an individual be in a very bad predicament like I was in and turn out to be very, very good people, so-called good people, and then you have maybe 1 or 2 turn out to be bad, or you have the whole family bad, or you don't have none of them bad. I mean, how can you answer that question? I can't answer that question. I don't know. But I do know that we have choices that we have to make. Right? And we have to make the best choices. With a smart person, it's not a person, man, that has education. A smart person is the person that make the right choice between right and wrong, whether to do this or whether to do that. And I wasn't that smart. All right. Okay.
What about your education?
Education? I mean, I got educated. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. I got that while in prison.
What about when you were a kid?
When I was when I was on the street, no. I got dropped out of school at an early age, and I got all my education while I was in prison, high school education, college education, you know, and you know.
Was the 45 years the sum total, in and out, or was that a 19th sentence?
45 years straight.
Straight.
Right, 45.
That was in New York or New Jersey?
In New York. In New York. I got locked up on 1970, October 26, 1970. I got released on October the 18th. November the 18th of this year.
So today is your 28th day. You haven't been out a month yet?
No, I haven't been out a month. No.
Okay. From 1970
to now.
That's a lot of time.
1970 till now.
Till now.
A month ago. Barely a month ago.
Barely a month ago.
And the world has gone.
Wow.
What has the world become to you?
You know, I'm still trying to absorb the reality that I'm out here and I'm walking around. That's one of the things I wanted to do when I first is just walk. Just walk around, yeah, because I didn't know anything. I mean, when I walked to New York, I didn't know Harlem. Harlem is not Harlem anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
Different place.
It's totally different. I've seen people in Harlem that, especially at night, that you never seen in Harlem at night. Much less in the daytime.
Looking at you like, what you doing here, right?
Like,
what you doing here?
What you doing here, right? You know.
But you went in 1970. That was at the end of
that was the middle of the Vietnam War.
Yeah. And they took me, when the guys that picked me up and brought me out, they took me and we went and ate at Sylvia's. And we ate in Sylvia's, and the first thing I noticed when I went in there was that it was like different people of nationalities in Sylvia's. Right. And I wasn't too surprised about that because, you know, you hear different things while you're in prison. But what I was really surprised about was how comfortable these people appeared to be in socializing. And socializing with each other there.
No friction.
I said, oh man, these so comfortable, you know. And that kind of surprised me, you know. And
it's not like that in prison.
Oh no, in prison, you know, prison has changed now drastically since when I first got locked. There was approximately about 9,000 people in the state of New York in prison system. And the prison system at one time went up to over 70,000, and I don't know what it is now. It's at a high, still at a high number. Oh. But the prison system then, you know, you had a white line, you had a black line. Mm-hmm. White guys line up on one side, you know, they go in the mess hall to eat, and vice versa. You had white courts, you had black courts, you know. You stay on your court, they stay on your court. You walk on somebody's court without being invited, and you have a big problem, you know. And
it's still like that now?
It's not really like that now. It's changed a lot now because guys changed, but you still have tribalism. That's what basically that's all that is tribalism and not realizing, man, that the system is built like that. The system is built to the point where it allows guys to stay separated. Mm-hmm. And when you stay separated, you don't understand each other. Mm-hmm. And when you don't understand each other, you have a lot of problems. Conflict. And it's a conflict occur, you know. It was a time when if I tried to teach somebody how to read and write, then or teach them some law or anything like that, then I would get locked up.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it was the time.
Well, they put you in solitary confinement?
Yes, you get locked up. They lock you up.
You're talking about getting locked up in prison.
In prison, yeah.
Going to lock.
But, so that's what you call locked up.
It's not like that now, though.
Mm-hmm. Solitary confinement is similar to that.
They still have solitary confinement. To me, what's bad, real bad now, is that you have a lot of, before, everything is very, very hard, real strict. When 4 o'clock come, the last meal come, that was it. You was locked in until the next day. But now it's not like that. Guys they got TV. They didn't have TVs then. They didn't have. Was one radio station. Everybody knew about. Everybody sung hillbilly songs or whatnot because that's all you heard, you know. And it's just different nowadays. You know, you got the hip hop and the rest of the stuff, man, that you got the guys in their 40s and 50s standing in front of the TV all day long looking at this nonsense. All right? I don't know. Guys get locked up, they get stuck into a time period, and guys think they're still young, mm-hmm. and they stay like, they act like that. And when they come out, I've seen thousands, literally thousands of guys go out and come back and act the same way.
What prompted you to pursue your education after you were incarcerated?
It was a guy named Saladin. Eventually, there's another guy up there. I used to stay locked up all the time.
Solitary confinement?
Yeah, solitary confinement. I used to stay locked up, go back and forth. And a lot of guys, like, you know, really cared for me, and they talked to the captain at first. They didn't have like captains, wardens, deputy superintendents, and things. They just had a captain and a warden during those years. And they asked him to let me work in the law library, but he said, well, if he stay out of trouble, they let me a job in the law library. Yeah. So I stayed out of trouble for 29 days, and the 30th day, I got locked up.
For what?
I can't even recall what it was. I know I got locked up. And so the captain got me up in front of the hearing. He said, "You think you're a tough guy?" He says, "I'm tougher than you. I got over 500 officers got my back, all right? And we will kill you in here if we have to." He said, "You think you're not going to get out of jail?" He said, "You're going to get out of jail one day if you tone down." Mm-hmm. He said, "Now, I'm going to let you out, but if you get in trouble again, you're finished." So I get out, they let me out. I started working in the law library. But I continued to do the same thing I was doing before. Right? But, you know, you learn how to manipulate and things of that sort.
You know what, let's do, I You know, a lot of people don't survive and commit suicide from solitary confinement. I'm going to show a little piece on the suicide of a youngster that spent 3 years in Rikers Island that committed suicide at 22.
Khalif Browder.
And he was out 2 years afterwards. Just run that roll in and we'll come right back at you, all right?
Thrown in jail as a 16-year-old high school sophomore. Now, more than 3 years later, this young man is free. Criminal charges completely dropped. And good evening again at 5:30. I'm Diana Williams.
And I'm Sade Better-Inwa. It is an outrageous case of justice derailed. How could it take 3 years for prosecutors in the Bronx DA's office to figure out they didn't have a case while a teenager sat in jail on Rikers?
Investigative reporter Sarah Wallace joining us now with her exclusive story. Sarah?
Well, Diana and Sade, the Bronx DA's office is refusing to say anything about this case, using the excuse that Khalif Browder has now filed a civil rights lawsuit. He was a teenage kid walking home from a party, literally snatched off the street and charged with robbery. It was a weak case from the very beginning.
I spent 3 New Years in there, 4 of my birthdays. I spent a lot of holidays in there.
20-year-old Khalif Browder may be physically free, but mentally he is still trapped behind bars on Rikers, where every day was a battle to survive.
It's very hard when you're dealing with these dudes that's wild tall and they're big, you know what I'm saying? And they got weapons and shanks, and then they're in gangs. And if you don't give your phone call up or you don't give him what he wants, you know they're gonna jump you because he got about other 15 other gang members. It's very scary.
In May of 2010, he was a 16-year-old 10th grader walking home on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx after a party.
The guy comes out of nowhere and says I robbed him, and the next thing you know, they put in the coach, man. I don't even know this dude. And then I do 3 years, over 3 years, for something I didn't even do.
Browder's family couldn't make the $10,000 bail on the robbery charges, and he had a legal aid attorney. Browder is now represented by a civil rights law firm. What was bad about this case?
Pretty much everything. One witness identification from a stranger. No evidence, no property recovered.
Months turned into years. He tried to commit suicide several times.
It was just all balling in my head to the point where I had to just grab my head, like I can't take it.
He missed his sister's wedding, the birth of his nephew, and so many family events. In January, Browder says he was offered a plea deal after 33 months in jail. He refused.
And the judge, she was trying to give me time serving. I wasn't taking it, and she told me if I lose trial, I could get 15 years. Just take the time served, and you go home today if you say you did it. I didn't do it. I'm not saying I did that.
He went back to jail in June, suddenly freed with no explanation.
No apology, no nothing. They just said, "Oh, case dismissed. Don't worry about nothing." Like, what do you mean don't worry about nothing? I just took over 3 years of my life.
He's now trying to make up for those 3 high school years he lost, taking courses to get his GED.
I didn't get to go to prom, graduation, nothing. Those are the main years. I'm never going to get those years back. Never. Never.
Browder is trying to move forward. He expects to get his GED by the end of the year and is desperately trying to find a job, any job. If you have a story.
The story of solitary confinement and just total abuse of the system. Had you seen this? Did you know about this?
Yes.
You knew about this, right? How often does that happen in prison? Abuse?
That's an ongoing thing. It's
normal.
It's normal. It's nothing that you'd be surprised of while you're in prison. It happens all the time. You have. Just like out here, you have good officers there, and you have bad officers there. You got good inmates there, and you got bad inmates there. Okay. And bottom line is that what you mostly see is the bad. It's mostly see what you're bad, but you got some good people that maybe try to go out the way, and can you call them good, man, that just turn their head? I mean, I don't know whether you can call them good or not. Just ignore what's going on. I don't think you can call them good people.
No.
So I guess you have to characterize them as being bad officers as well. Right? And that goes the same thing with inmates. Inmates, man, they see something that's going wrong, and you don't have enough strength. Enough strength, and I'm not talking about so much physical strength, but enough strength, man, to say, man, you're wrong, man, don't do that.
Right.
And that's where we get caught up in.
That's the most difficult part in life.
Yeah.
People owning up to their mistakes.
Yeah.
And you've owned up to your mistake, right?
Oh, definitely. You know, I went to, when I went to the pro board, when I got arrested right on the spot. I'm shot, my brother shot, and they arrested on the spot. So when they go to trial, they will offer me a plea to a life sentence. I'm not going to cop out to no life sentence. I go to trial. I mean, if I go to trial, I'm going to get a life sentence. If I cop out, I'm going to get a life sentence. So I might as well go to trial.
Right.
I mean, it was no-brainer as far as I was concerned.
Because you had shot, attempt murder three police officers.
3 police officers.
You wounded 3 cops.
Yes.
Okay.
And so...
but they had shot your brother.
They shot my brother, yeah. My brother got shot, I got shot also. So when I went to the pro board, and many times I've been to pro board 11 times. And
45 years only 11 times?
Each time it's 2 years you go to pro board, you get hit. So they asked me, why did I go to trial? Did you commit the crime? I said, yes, I committed the crime. But why did you go to trial? I exercised my right to go to trial. That's why I went to trial. It's my right to go to trial. But you did the crime. Yeah, but it's still my right to go to trial. So I'm being penalized for the crime that I committed by the judge.
Your right.
And being penalized for exercising my right to go to trial.
So they gave you twice as much time?
So they kept hitting me at the board.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
So, you know, so I said, so now after they said, did you come? I said, yes. They said, why you you're not denying you did it now? I said, well, for what? I mean, I realized, man, what I was trying to do, I was individual as a criminal. I thought I'd go to trial. If I can get out of it, I'll get out of it. If I can beat it, I got a shot to beat it, good. But what's the sense of keep on lying, you know, at this here point? I said, yes, I did it. I committed the crime. I explained exactly what happened. And every time I go to the board, they ask you similar questions. And I give them the same answers for the most part, you know. And what a lot of guys do, though, they change their story up. Back and forth, you know. Many guys do that.
Well, you going for the same parole board? And
you know, you have different commissioners.
Okay.
But I've had several commissioners 3 or 4 different times.
Okay.
Right? And one of the most difficult things about facing the commissioners is that most of the commissioners is involved with some type of law enforcement or education or whatever. And I had one particular commissioner that she was an ex-cop. And she still was affiliated with the police and whatnot. So I used to try to find some law to find out whether there was a conflict of interest of
the same
the same people, you know. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find that, you know. But I think that they changed the prison system, pro board, to say community supervision or something like that.
Yeah, Department of Corrections and Community Supervision.
So the community, they don't have enough input on who should come back to their community. And on paper, it indicates that it's supposed to be pro and community supervision. But who is on the pro board is people that don't know anything about the communities that we come from.
We did a show on that.
Yeah, there's no, you know. And so that's one of the big problems.
How about solitary confinement?
Solitary confinement is tough. Everybody can't handle it. Solitary confinement.
That's what happened to Caleb.
You know,
He kept putting, you know, that stuff kept coming back at him as a kid. I mean, imagine a 16-year-old.
See, a kid, that's one of them, to change the law with children. A guy, he might do a horrendous crime, but he don't think like an adult. They don't think like adults. Their mind hasn't developed like an adult mind has developed. And they can't take the same type of pressure that an adult will take. Now, you got some kids, man, that come from rough neighborhoods and they raised up that way. They may be, but you got other ones that can't do it. And, you know, I've seen many individuals, man, try to kill themselves or either kill themselves in prison. I mean, that was the reality. It happened all the time. You know, happened all the time.
Now, that was John White. One of the things in his case, John lived out in Suffolk County, a young kid, and some kids came to the house threatening him, his wife, and his son, threatening to kill them. And John fended him off with his handgun. And one of the guys grabbed the gun and tried to take it from him, which was attempted robbery. The gun went off and the kid got killed. So John was convicted, I think, for criminal negligent homicide and possession of a weapon, which never should have happened, at least not the homicide part. But long story short, as he was going in, I said, well, John, you have to think about why God is having you go and what benefit there is in your going to prison. For him, it was the fact that he served as a deacon in his church, but he dealt with 2 young boys in downstate who were planning on committing suicide. And he was able to sit with them and counsel them and keep them from taking their lives in downstate. It's as bad as it was for him, it was worse for them. So it was a blessing that he was there. And Governor Patterson commuted his sentence and he got out in 10 months. But that pressure, you speak of the pressure on young boys, even interrogations when I've interrogated young fellas. I'm thinking of a case I did, a homicide case. This boy was 17. And he and another friend tried to rob a guy who was also wanted for robbery, ironically. But they killed this guy. This was the day after Christmas, 1994. Shot this guy, killed him, and it took me all of about 2 days to find him. And in sitting down, I said to him, look, your life is not over. But you have to think about where you're going to be when you get out, who you're going to be when you get out. You can't go in there, you can't go in the way you've been living. He got sentenced to 17 years, and he wasn't the shooter. So at age 17, he was facing 17 years. And one of the things was that he admitted to his involvement in the homicide, you know, and he still got 17 years. And it's a shame because, as you said, kids don't think.
He took a plea?
He pled, and he got 17 years. His partner, it's another story, we don't have time for all of it, but, you know, the thinking, how kids think. A lot of kids don't think past the moment. A grown man will think, well, you know, if I've got a job, if I've got a family, I've got this, I got certain other things and responsibilities, and sometimes I can't afford to just do what I want to do because of the other people in my life, you know, and the consequences and the effect, the snowball effect it'll have. And kids just don't think. They're just in the moment. And too often, I've talked with kids and I've asked them, "Do you think?" And no, I didn't think about that. You know, they're just in the moment, doing what it is, and the consequences they've never dawned until they're brought in and they're sitting in that situation. I have to tell them, "Mommy can't help you. You're not going back home." You know, and where you're going. I had a young 16-year-old boy I sent to state prison. I said, "You should be out playing ball. You should be going out with your girl, movies, whatever." I said, "You're 16. You can't defend yourself in state prison." I said, "You're not big enough. You can't do it." I said, "And this is not bringing me any joy because you can lose your life."
Easily.
He survived it, though.
He survived.
His father came up to me one day in Midtown, and 7 years. This is like shortly after 9/11, and said his son was out. He said it was a hard lesson for him to learn, but he learned it. His son is out. He got married. He has a young child. He said his son doesn't cross the street if the light isn't green. He doesn't cross. He said, but it was something. And he did not understand the struggle of black people in the past. We gave him a book, if they could read. My partner and I, here, read this. You're sitting in the cell, read this. And it was a book on the victims of the civil rights era, the people that were murdered. And none of the crimes that were ever solved by the FBI or the local police. All these Negroes that were murdered, and whites. And he sat in that cell and cried.
Because he didn't know anything.
And I said, what's wrong with you? He says, I never knew any of this. I said, I never knew any of this. I said, well, you keep the book. But
do you think that's the problem today with the youth? Why they're killing each other as much as they are? Because they don't know their history and the struggles that we went through.
Lack of knowledge, you know, it has something to do with it. Yeah. You know, Sam? No, Richard. Richard.
Adams.
He got, the light went on.
But he went in the 70s.
Yeah, but besides the time frame, same problem, you know.
Well, in 1970, you know, after Martin Luther King died, things sort of lightened up for us a little bit. Affirmative action was a little bit stronger. I know in 1970, I got an affirmative action job on Fifth Avenue. I mean, they were starting to open up, they started feeling, what, sorry for us or something?
I don't think they ever felt sorry for us. Even till today, they may not feel sorry.
But he had dropped out.
Yeah,
well, you were a criminal.
You know.
Now here's some. Okay, so he was in prison in the 70s. I was in prison in the 70s.
Oh, that's right.
So now.
And you and when did you become a cop?
74.
74.
Now while he was in prison, like, you know, he did a straight 45. I had been out in and out a number of times. And
you did a total of what?
15.
15.
You know, but I did mine like cumulatively. You know, I didn't just do one straight 15. But you know, mine's hurt too. Now here is my take.
Can you imagine what it's like to spend 45
Imagine is all I would ever like to ever do. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I think that if I would have ever thought that I would have had to do 45 straight years, I don't think I would have ever came out. And the reason why I wouldn't ever came out, every day I would have been spent trying to escape. So one thing or the other, I would have got out or they would have killed me trying to get out. I don't think I could have did it. Now, here's my view on this here. So he did 45 straight years. When the time he went in, I had been in and out, in and out, in and out, okay? And for me, the light eventually came on, but it was a process. Now, why it's so very important for us, transformatively, a lot of us went in, and that's where the transformation for us began, because we began to read, we began to...
Same with Malcolm.
We began to read, we began to be exposed to older people that were knowledgeable, that knew the history, and began to teach and learn our history.
But you don't have education in prison like you used to.
No, but here's my point, what I'm going to get to here, is that a lot of our education, for those of us that have been in prison for long periods of time, or have done long periods of time, over a period of time, the education process began to happen for us. We began to become enlightened on a lot of things that we may not have been enlightened on before, especially as it relates to our history. I learned a lot about our history while I was in prison that I didn't even have a clue of, that I even didn't know exist. So I began to say to myself, well, why do I keep doing this here, and I keep winding up in the same place? Nothing was changing except the fact that I was becoming what they considered a repeat offender. And every time I went, the time kept getting longer, I kept getting older, and the prison was still there. And I started making this connection that I'm not going to be here forever, And every time I come back, I'm a year or two older, but the prison still stands strong. History of prison is that it's always there and it'll always be there. We will not always be here. So then I became to say, you know what? I think I better start changing my way of thinking. I better start changing my way of behaviors, because if I didn't, I either was going to die in prison or I was going to be killed in the streets. It was no, in between.
Let me ask the two of you this question. How many people use that as an excuse, being black and having to turn to crime in order to survive? I mean, you might realize it years later, but I mean, when you start searching your soul for your flaws, when you see years later that it was that you blamed being black for being, or use that as an excuse to commit crimes? I'm talking to the two of you.
Okay, let me, and I can be brief with this here. And I never use my blackness as the excuse for my behaviors, because for me it was my choice. Yeah, I went to school. Oh, I was smart and what? Man, I was a A1 student. I mean, I had early education because my generation, they all came from the South. I was raised by women. They were school teachers. Okay, I got an early education. I did very well in school, but it's what I seen around me that influenced my decisions, my peers. I knew, being black did have something to do with it, but I do not blame my blackness as the reason why I turned to crime. I turned to crime because I seen things that I wanted. And I knew that I wasn't capable of getting it at the time with my education, what I had, even though I was, like I say, I wasn't deprived educationally. I did.
Which, part. One of the things that I think that shaped how youngsters think is commercials. I'm serious. We're in this society where everything is instant. We want it right away. And the commercials, they show you 1,000 different commercials, repeatedly. Yeah. And so, without you even realize it, it gets into your psyche. Right? You have to have this now.
Right.
So, as far as the struggle of the black people struggle, many black youngsters nowadays, that don't affect them. They don't see the struggle. They don't see the struggle. They see the struggle that their parents made, my parents made, and your parents made as for then. Now, we got to get our thing right now.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the question that you asked, do many individuals use blackness as the excuse why they commit crimes? No, I don't. I haven't. If I've met anybody that thought that way, I wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of it. But I don't know anybody. But I know I've met many individuals, and the young guys now, as well as many of the older guys now, they use the excuse that I don't have no education. I got to get mine right now, and that's that. That's the excuse I've heard all the time. That excuse. Listen, I know I'm not going to get ahead. I'm not going to get what this guy got by a job. I know I can't get a job making $60,000, $70,000 a year. I know I'm not going to get a job to make $100,000 a year. So that's what's going to be required for me to make that type of money to live this type of lifestyle. So what I'm going to get involved with is hip-hop, getting the music industry. I'm going to get involved, you understand, with drugs. Or I'm going to be a basketball player. All these is dreams.
Right.
All these is dreams. And they don't realize that all the basketball players and all the entertainers and whatnot, they had to work hard for that. They had to make sacrifices.
That's right. That's
and many of our children, they don't want to make those type of sacrifices because it takes too long. You know, they want to get it just like they see the commercial. Right. They want to get it. That's the way. I view. I spoke to many guys. I counseled many guys in prisons that have been in prison. I used myself as an example to them. I said, look at me. I said, I've been in jail a long time. Do you want to be like me? And if you want to be like me, go out there. I can tell you how to go out there and do all the things you want to do wrong. All right? If you want to do that, I'll help you. You want to be that way, I'll help you do it. All right? But you know what's going to happen? You're going to end up dying out there or being back here with me.
And dying
being back here and dying in here. And so that's how I used to talk to it. So now, when we got guys, counselors, I used to do reports for counselors in the prison. All right? I wasn't getting a dime for it. All right? They getting paid for my work. And so I got fed up with that. All right? They had the audacity to tell me, don't help a guy no more. I used to run the pre-release centers in the prison for many, many years.
What?
The pre-release center. The pre-release centers are centers where individuals are preparing for release.
Okay.
All right? And so you try to help the guy to make resumes and job hunting and things of that sort. And they told us, well, we don't want you guys now. They called a meeting with my whole staff. They said, listen, we don't want you guys no more giving mock pro hearings. Mock pro hearings. Prepare a guy how to handle himself in front of the pro panel. So we want you guys to prepare the guys, man, to be in here. I said, what? I said, I don't understand that. You want us to help a guy help a guy to stay in jail, to be a good prisoner in jail, and don't help a guy to try to be a good person to go out? No, Mr. Davis. That was my name. I got it busted. My name was James Davis, but my real name is Richard Adams. Right? So no, Mr. Davis. Don't say it like that. I said, well, that's what you're saying. So I quit. Right? So they don't want me to quit. So I had to write to Albany, and the central office said, well, he worked over 20 years, so you know he can quit anytime he wants. So I quit. And after that, I decided that I wasn't going to do no other job in the prison now unless it was going to help me. Now I wasn't worried about, you understand, helping the administration and whatnot. You know. Now they had some administration people there that was very good, that helped me out a whole lot. Right? But they had many others, man, that was just terrible. Right? And so, we caught up in the system where nobody want to work. Nobody don't want to work. Right? Yeah. Behind the wall, the counselors, they don't want to do their job. They don't want to work, many of them. Right? And you got inmates that's there that don't want to do no work. Right? And so you have a situation where nobody's doing anything, and then resentment and animosity settles deep in. And so a guy have that when he come out, if he do come out, he have that in his heart. He had that in his attitude, you know.
What kept you from being bitter?
Well, I was bitter for many years.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I hated everybody. I realized I even hated myself.
Okay. For how many years?
For many, many years. It wasn't until...
the first 20?
The first, even past that.
Ooh. Wow.
Even past that, because I used to box. I used to box years ago. I boxed before I came to prison, and when I went to prison, I was boxing. And so, when you go into prison, you have to establish yourself. So, I'm a little guy, and I was establishing myself. Jews used to look up to me because the way I was able to handle myself. Right. And so those things, and I used to handle all. I used to bank tickets, football, basketball, baseball tickets, and all that like that. And so like anything, anybody wanted anything, they would come to me. I thought that was a big thing. I used to, you know, that used to make me feel good. I was somebody understand that was important. I thought that was important. Then I realized, man, that I'm just caught up in prison life, and it was satisfying. Then prison life became not to be satisfying to me anymore. And I said, man, here I'm in all these years being important in jail. And I see, and it happens all around. Everybody, you want to be an important guy in jail rather than being just an individual in the street. Right? Oh, you could be, you got guys that come to jail, all you got to do is put on a clean shirt. You might have been a bum on the street. Put on a clean shirt, do some research about whatever you wanted to be, and make believe you that, and people believe it. Right? And that's the script that you try to play. Right? So, I don't want to be like that. I realized that I want to be somebody that understands that's important, man, to my family. And I don't have that much many more years. I'm 71 years old. I don't have that much more time. Right? I don't have that much more time. But I want to be somebody, I realized that I want to be somebody, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, say, though he did 45 years and all them years in jail, he didn't waste his life in jail because we benefiting from some of the things.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do now?
Well, the first thing I want to do is be with my family. And problem with that is that I can't be with my family. I can't even go and visit my family because they live in New Jersey.
Oh, you can't leave the state.
Yeah, right. I can't.
Well, you can't leave the state.
Nope.
I
Still.
can't leave the state.
Are you on? Are you on lifetime parole?
Yes.
Because you had.
Oh,
So,
wow.
So.
What does that mean?
my
You
parole
can't go
officer-
to Jersey's?
No.
You can't go to New Jersey?
Not without permission.
Not without permission.
Not without permission.
He's not a free man.
That's
still
the
not free.
impediment to being on
No.
parole.
Well,
One of the impediments.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can't
How is-
travel.
How is that? How is
You
that?
can't travel.
That's in the
what,
parole.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Now you just spent 45 years in prison. You're telling me you can't do anything?
He was facing a life sentence.
Okay.
And he's on lifetime
Right.
parole.
So they gave him lifetime parole
So
with his
I could
release.
eventually, hopefully, inshallah, get off parole. If you go for evaluation for it, I think every 3 years or every 5 years or something.
Every 3
of that sort,
years.
to determine whether or not they're going to let you off of parole or not. It's an automatic thing they do now. I know guys that've been on parole 10 years and that have life sentences and haven't made it yet. I know individuals that got off parole after 3 years. So you know. And,
What determines?
Good
I don't know.
conduct.
Good conduct is not only the only thing, because I know individuals that got good jobs, work for social agencies, doing very, very well, helping ex-offenders, helping individuals. Man, I know 3 guys that work on Ward's Island right now. They work there, getting housing for individuals to work for the guys that have to go to shelters and all that, get apartments and places for them. And been out there for years and years. Never had no arrests. Always on time. Always paid their bills, paid their taxes and everything, and still on parole.
And here's with the few minutes, let me just give you an overview. Here is one of the things that we are doing, formerly incarcerated people, the group of us, him included, that we work on what we do as far as reentry, Second Chance, Incarcerated Nation Corporation, the Release Aging People in Prison campaign, and the Harlem Restoration Project and the New Harlem Think Tank, which is a group of us, formerly incarcerated individuals, men and women, that we have formed this coalition for reentry to help brothers like himself when they come home, to bring them into the collective, to help them reintegrate back into society by connecting them with those of us in the community that is doing work, that has been home. A lot of us been home for some years. A lot of us are parts of programs or either directors of programs that assist the formerly incarcerated when they come home. A lot of them are still on parole, like he just pointed out. Some of them got life parole. One of the restrictions that people do have, unfortunately, when they come home with the curfews, with the can't travel out of state, with the can't do this and can't do that, is that we help in building the resume that will make them eligible for early release, that will make them eligible to be able to travel to see their families who are out of state. Some of us in the campaign have been able to travel out of state on parole because of the work that we are doing in the community. This is one of the things why it's so important for the community to be aware of what the work that people are doing when they come home, that people have been away for 45 years like himself, 30 years, 20 years, 25 years. People are coming home and are connecting with us. And now we are in the process of doing documentaries like we did with him when he first came home, that we're showing from the point of discharge from prison how very important it is for somebody to have somebody there for them. For them to have somebody to help them navigate the system when they come home, in accessing benefits, in getting ID cards, and getting whatever it is necessary for a person to get when they come home to help them reintegrate back into the community. These are the things that we are actually doing, because we know what it is to come home and have to try to access, to get you an ID card, to get the additional paperwork that you need to go with that to even get the ID card, for you to apply for food stamps, for you to apply to go to school, for you to fill out college application, grant applications, all this kind of stuff is part of the re-entry that prisons do not prepare you for. So we have to establish this amongst ourselves to make re-entry and reintegration actually conducive and work for what it needs to be worked for. Because it is us that have been directly affected by the problems, that are closest to the solutions, that help people reintegrate back into the community, that will create the platform to let people see that, oh, this is the work that people are doing. No matter how long he's been in prison, he's not the same person. He's coming back with skills, with education, with credentials, willing and ready to give back to the community. All we're asking for is an opportunity. All we're asking for is to see us different.
You would prefer to live in New Jersey?
Yes,
with your family?
You know, I would prefer to be with my family, but like I mentioned to my family that if I'm given the opportunity to go where we live, I'm given the opportunity, I want to be able to travel back and forth because I have a family over here also. I don't know, I mean, all my parents, uncles, aunts, I don't have no uncles, aunts, parents, nothing like that. All of us passed away. And the only one I have is my grandchildren and my son, my children and my grandchildren. But I have a family over here also. I have a family of individuals that that's in prison, and for the individual that's outside of prison that I've lived with for many, many years, and we struggle with, and so it's things, man, that we have to start realizing that all of us are exonerably tied to each other. White, black, or whatever. Okay. Right? See, I used to get caught up on the white thing and the black thing. I'm not caught up on that. Right? Right? When we get caught up on that, then that's just we getting caught up in the tribalism, and we get caught up in other mess thing. And just like I have a police case. When I heard you talking, I said, man, I admire this guy, and I'm not trying to just pat you on your back, but I'm sincere because here it is, you're an individual. That's on the police force, or I don't know whether you know if you're still there, or the phone person. That it seems to me that it was an individual that was trying to be an individual that worked for the community. And that's one of the things, the big things about our community now. I haven't seen since I've been out, or have I ever heard since I've been in, where the police is connected to the community. The police is far distant from the community. The young guys, they could be sitting on their porch, on their porch or their stoop, and the police come, and they'll get frightened, and the police come by. Why? Why should the police come by and the kids be? If anything, the police, you understand, should be friendly with them.
That's right.
And they should be friendly with the police.
That's right.
Because if the police is if you're doing something wrong, and the police, and I know you, and I'm a cop, and I know you. Right. I'm going to admonish you. Right. I'm going to admonish you. I'm taking you to your parents, or I might even slap you upside your head.
Yeah, so don't do that.
Rather than giving you a criminal record.
It used to be like.
Rather than giving you a criminal record. See, it used to be like
that. So, I mean, listen, I've never liked a cop I like. I mean, I never met a cop I liked until I met Graham. All right? And I've been knowing Graham, 15 years now. But if we could duplicate people like Graham, 1,000-fold, and put them into the system, because they would help clean up the system. You know what I mean? One good cop makes up for maybe 10 bad ones, because they help put the bad ones. I'm sure Graham can tell you many a story of how he straightened up a lot of bad cops. But this is why we need to promote our young kids going into the force and cleaning it up. All right.
A new mindset.
Would you suggest that to stay out of jail? How would you? What's your biggest advice to young kids today after you've learned your lesson?
Young kids today, they're not dumb. They just make bad choices.
Okay.
All right. That's the first thing I want them to know. We got to have trust and say that these kids are smart kids. All right. But being smart don't just mean, man, the education you have and all that. Being smart is making your best choices. That's what smartness means. Right? And once a kid understands that smartness means making the best choices, then in my mind, that's the first step in the child realizing that the connection between the community, and when I say the community, I mean the police force as well. All right? It's important. When we get that connection, then everything will start working itself out gradually. Kids, I don't care how much, I can sit down here and counsel kids all day long and talk like they talk or whatnot. What do that mean? It don't mean nothing. If my action, you understand, doesn't follow that. See, our actions, what parents do, parents and educators and other than them, they tell the people, the children to do so-and-so, so-and-so, and they doing it, you know, don't
Just
smoke,
opposite.
then you smoke.
Right.
Don't do this, don't cheat, don't lie. I'm not home, tell the kid said, mommy told me to tell you not home. That happened to me. I talked to my aunt, and I said, hello, sweetheart, when my mom was live. I said, your mommy there? She said, no, mommy said she's not here. And then she stopped. No, mommy. So she teaches the child the lie right then and there, and it caused the animosity in my heart, and I never called back no more at that time. And so those are the things that children learn, and so we have to get away from that. So that was the first thing that I would tell a child to do, you understand, is recognize that smartness, don't have anything to do with, man, education and smartness don't have anything to do with making the right choices. Making the right choices is what makes you smart, not education and none of the other thing. The other thing that I think is important is that we have to give people an opportunity, man, to exercise, man, their skills. A lot of guys got a lot of good skills. I see all these dilapidated buildings, and you know, it's a lot of things that can be done. The guys that's coming out of prison, they get all them trying to skills. They know how to build things. Let them guys, even if you don't pay them as much as you pay the regular workers, and then the union, that's the other problem. The
unions don't want it.
You know, they don't want it. So they can build all that stuff up. We could straighten that homeless out.
I hate to cut you off, but it's time to go. An hour went quickly. And as you see, it's the Gilchrist Experience, and thank God for, you know, redemption. The God in me loves the God in you. And stay tuned for more on the Gilchrist Experience. Stay tuned. God bless. Power to the people.